Are the Denver Broncos prepared to make a statement this weekend against the Kansas City Chiefs? Will Sean Payton finally allow himself to maybe unlock Bo Nix a little bit earlier than the fourth quarter of some of these games? And how is Vance Joseph preparing to contain and control a Patrick Mahomes-led offense? All things to come on today's rundown. Thank you so much for joining us. While you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 1043 The Fan YouTube channel. You can find us at the handle at Denver Sports 1043 on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If you're watching us on X or Facebook Live, we appreciate you. Like, comment, share, turn on those post notifications so you never miss a moment with us. Want to welcome in on a Football Friday ahead of Chiefs Week, a special guest from behind enemy lines, Dusty Likens from 96.5 The Fan, one half of the morning show there in Kansas City. Fesco and Dusty. Dusty, we were chatting a little bit before we went live here, and it really does kind of feel like this particular AFC West game between the Broncos and the Chiefs has a little bit more of a larger feel or higher stakes to it than it has in the last handful of years, considering one half of this rivalry has won 14 of the last 16 matchups, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. This is what it's all about, though, man. This is why you watch football. This is what you want football to be. As exonerated or as excited as I've been that the Chiefs have been super dominant, it's been an easy way to just kind of look, okay, where might they go in January or February, right? Like, that's always been fun. And we've always been the 8-2 team. Denver's always been the 5-2 team, at least for the last 10 years since Peyton hung it up in 2016 or whatever it was. And now, like I was telling you, like, isn't this cool? Like, this is what it's all about. This is why, you can put Seattle and the Rams on the back burner. This is the matchup of the weekend, in my honest opinion. And you talk about one hell of a Sunday afternoon. You go 3:05 Central Time, that is, with Seahawks and Rams. Then you go right into Kansas City, Denver, and then you go right into Philadelphia and Detroit. Feels like playoff football in the middle of November.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lineup card for sure, and one that I think we will all, whether you're a fan of these two teams we're talking about today or plenty of the other NFL matchups, something we'll all be pretty glued to come Sunday. Dusty, when we're taking a look at the Broncos this year, it's been kind of a difficult year to evaluate because it feels like with every yin, there's a yang, or whenever one foot drops, you're kind of just waiting for the other. The Broncos have been a definition of dysfunction and subpar play, mediocrity from the ownership level prior to their current ownership group on through the front office and into the locker room for the better part of the last decade or so, really, since Peyton Manning walked out the door. And now they're on their 11th iteration of trying to find a starting quarterback since Manning retired. And it feels like they have the best potential chance to have found it in Bo Nix than any of the previous predecessors like Drew Lock or any of the journeyman, veteran quarterbacks that they've landed on. And yet, as we go into 2025, the evaluation of a guy like Bo Nix for us here locally, who are obviously in the trenches with it and probably way too close in a lot of situations, it's hard because Bo Nix started his NFL career in 2024 as maybe the worst quarterback performance through the first month of a season ever. And then from weeks 11 to 18 of last season, he was one of the best statistical quarterbacks in the NFL. And we thought a lot of that would carry over into 2025. And there's been some regression, but yet they're 8-2. And winning in the NFL is hard. Am I right? So winning 8 times out of 10 times that you line up, it is hard to detract from. And yet the offense just looks so ugly. And it's coming off of a game against the Las Vegas Raiders where it was almost hard to keep the TV on without some kind of parental advisory warning. Dusty, that was a long-winded way to ask you, what is your evaluation of the Denver Broncos from the opposing viewpoint as we get ahead and ready for this weekend?
Yeah, I think you nailed it all in there, and I think that what you look like from a Kansas City perspective is, I think the honest non-homer people in Kansas City are quite worried about that front four. I mean, Bo Nix is not on anybody's – I mean, I can honestly tell you that the only radar he was on out here was, can they shake him up, because he's going to be without his anchor and J.K. Dobbins. I mean, I know R.J. Hardy's is a stud, but I still think some of his stats are skewed. We had Jamal Charles for a couple of years out here, and he would have like the same type of J.K. Dobbins day. And I know you know this, right? 112 yards rushing, 18 carries, no touchdowns. But for some reason, when we had Thomas Jones, he'd have 4 carries for 21 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's kind of how I feel like Hardy's been. Like, he's been the inside the 10 guy. But from a perspective of Kansas City, like, when they've gotten absolutely shell-shocked, or Mahomes has been mortal, per se, it was the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, it was the Buffalo game last week, and it was the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl. The 3 things those games have in common are 4-man rush, 7 guys deep in the secondary. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, Andy Reid being the great coach that he is, Patrick Mahomes being the great quarterback that he is, they have not sustained an offense, or they have not got into Patrick Mahomes' PTSD with that defense and changed it. That's exactly what Buffalo did last week. They pressured him 52% of the time, or not last week, but 2 weeks ago, the last time the Chiefs played before their bye. They pressured him, I think 58% of the time in the game by just rushing 4. And that 4-man front in Denver is disgusting. It's nasty. Anchored by Benito. Allen's a guy that you hate to go against. Right. But by God, if you're in Denver, you love him on your team, right? You'd hate him if you wasn't in Denver. 100%. You can't deny that. But you love 100%. Him when he's on your squad. So I think that's part of the problem. Now, I think when you look at this game from the perspective that you kind of divided out there, is the fact that you have Denver's defensive front. It's better than the Chiefs' defensive front. It's not even close. Denver's offensive line. It's better than the Chiefs' offensive line, but it's close. I don't know what the Josh Simmons situation is at left tackle. If they throw him out there in the fire after missing 5 games or 5 weeks without the team, or if they stick with Jalen Moore. That's going to be found out, I guess, today once Andy releases everything, or maybe it'll be tomorrow as well. But I think the thing that's the interesting part, which is the keynote, which is Bo Nix, because the dude, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but we had our play-by-play guy on from the Chiefs, Mitch Holtis, and he said Bo Nix is the kind of guy that doesn't go to class for the entire semester. Never there, doesn't show up. Next thing you know, it's finals week, and Bo Nix gets an A. And you don't really know, why that works out. But I get it, it was the Giants. They put up 30 in the fourth quarter. That's a number you can't hide behind. But I also lean on the fact that Bo Nix is going against Spags. He's not going against that mess in the New York Giants organization. He's going against Steve Spagnuolo. So I think where Denver has a massive advantage on the defensive front, and they can keep this game within single digits and keep it below 20, Kansas City does have the advantage of Andy Reid coming out the bye at 22-4 with that record, and Steve Spagnuolo, who's going to have to design something, because we don't even know where Chris Jones is. We haven't found him yet.
I was just going to ask.
Somebody's wearing 95, and I don't think it's Chris. I think they got the jersey off a Wish or something, but it ain't Chris Jones's body in that 95 jersey. So that's a big thing there as well. But yeah, Bo Nix is interesting, man, because I don't think he's him. I don't think he's the guy. I don't think he's going to be. But right now he's doing everything he can with with what is a team in Denver that's, got some dead cap issues, and Sean Payton's, doing the best he can. Look, you guys are 8-2. You're a playoff team. You weren't that for the last 5 to 7 years. And yet now you have a quarterback who's kind of wishy-washy, kind of on the, it's just weird to me with Bo Nix, because I don't understand how, it's like my golf game. I'll go bogey the first 5 holes, and then in the last 3, I'm like par, birdie, and I want to come back for more.
Exactly. It's that textbook abusive relationship of beating you up and then loving you up right before the end. But yeah. Dusty, just to give you guys some peace of mind, we don't quite have our heads around the Bo Nix situation yet either. I think there are a lot more maybe question marks and speculation about whether or not Bo Nix is progressing on a track to be the next franchise quarterback for the Broncos than we thought there might be, given how the season ended. Yeah, I know they got the doors beat off of them by the Buffalo Bills in the wild card round, as does every 7 seed in the wild card, weekend playoffs. But the way that this season has unfolded, it's like that weird dynamic of they're finding ways to win games ugly, but it's ugly. And it keeps getting uglier. And so it's hey, that's a good thing. You never know, You know, you never feel like you're out of it. You can win the greasy ones, the grimy ones. Not everything has to go your way. They scored 18 points against the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in the fourth quarter to complete a comeback in Lincoln Financial. You mentioned the Giants game. They had an offensive explosion against a Division II defense in the Dallas Cowboys. And they just keep finding ways to make it work. But the way that I have kind of looked at this matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs is that the Denver Broncos have found ways to win with 4+ fourth quarter comebacks this season in 10 games in a way that I think the Kansas City Chiefs are experts at not allowing. They have needed a team to make a mistake, to stall out at the hands of their talented defense, and the Broncos defense has undoubtedly been the catalyst here. And I start mapping it out, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is how the Chiefs win games. They don't make mistakes. And Patrick Mahomes just waits for that one moment, that one breakdown or lapse in coverage defensively, that one penalty that extends a drive that was lifeless, that one missed block or whatever it was, and suddenly, bam, you kick the door down because you saw daylight, and it changes the game. It's the Josh Allen 13 seconds left on the clock, and it changed the overtime rules and all that stuff. And so the Broncos have found ways to do it through 10 weeks, and they've won 8 games. But it just feels to me like the way they've been doing it plays very well into the hand of what Kansas City is experts at also doing and not allowing at the same time.
Yeah, the big difference, I think, in all the games, you mentioned Philadelphia, you mentioned Buffalo and Dallas, none of those teams are anchored by Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I know Philadelphia beat Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid last year in the Super Bowl. I get that. Like, I understand that, but that was not the same Jalen Hurts in those games. Like, I don't know what that Jalen Hurts was in that Super Bowl, but it was Superman, dude. I'm with
you. I am not a Jalen Hurts truther. I'm with you. I thought that was,
And I don't know, and their defensive line was just way too much for the offensive line for Kansas City. And they got their ass kicked. That's basically all you can say about that game. No excuses, but, like, you haven't seen that Jalen Hurts since. And I kind of did this today on our show. I kind of comped the Eagles and the Broncos as almost kind of identical teams. They're both boring. Let's not sugarcoat this. The Broncos are very boring. They're not a fun team to watch. Neither are the Eagles. But you know what? They're winning their divisions. They have really good records. They have really good leadership. For some reason, Sirianni works in Philadelphia. He ain't gonna work anywhere else.
Nope.
Only in Philadelphia. You've seen what Sean Payton's done in Denver. He's going to work there because they're going to give him control. They want to be good. He's a great offensive mind. He's a red ass. He's not going to make everybody happy every day, every time on the field. But you look at what Denver is doing now. Again, they're strict in money because of the Russell Wilson contract, and that'll eventually end, and you'll be able to kind of do more things with that. But you put Bo Nix around the defense, and you build him an offensive line, and you essentially say, please don't screw this up. Just get to the finish line. I don't care if you get there at 5 miles per hour or 50 miles per hour. Just get to the finish line. And I understand that Denver has 8 wins and 2 losses. You still have 8 wins and 2 losses. We did this all last year in Kansas City. They won 11 games by 1 or fewer, like by 7 or fewer points, 1 possession games. This year, the Kansas City Chiefs are 0-4 in all those games. So enjoy it. Even if it's ugly, even if people hate it, if people don't support it, middle fingers, you're still winning. You're winning the AFC West, which is maybe the 3rd toughest division in all of football. And eventually you'll find what works for Bo Nix. You'll find to turn him into that game manager. I mean, Alex Smith is nothing that blows anybody off the paper with stats. But for about 4 years in Kansas City, by God, we rallied behind him. And, he got booed. He didn't throw the ball deep, and he was inaccurate. And you know how Denver's offense is. They ask Bo Nix 3 times a game to hit a shot, whether that's Franklin, Mims, or it's Sutton. Hit that shot and get us a little bit of a surge. Our defense will take care of the rest of it because I can't remind anybody enough about this. That defensive line can absolutely wreck a game. It can take the best quarterbacks out of the game. It can take the best running backs out of the game. And that's why you guys beat Philadelphia. Your defensive line just took over. And then Bo Nix was like, okay, we got to go from the 45 to the end zone. I can do that. I can do that, Sean. So it is an interesting concept to have this game against Denver, who has won games. You're winning games. That's all that matters at the end of the day. It's ugly. I'm sure Steph Curry's got 500 3-pointers that he's made that have banked off the glass or dribbled around the rim.
Rattled in the rim, yep.
But what are the only ones we see? The ones from 80 feet that hit nothing but nylon, and he just looks so effortlessly doing it. But I bet if you went back and watched every three that Steph Curry's made, not all of them are beautiful, but you're 8-2. The Chiefs are 5-4. Even if you don't win this game, you have enough cushion to sit back on. If the Chiefs lose this game, my co-host and I, we have a very serious conversation as if a Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid team doesn't make the playoffs.
Well, that's where I was actually going to go next. If you look at the AFC standings as a whole, it's about as 2012 as you could probably imagine when you have the Patriots, Colts, and Broncos kind of leading the way, the Steelers and Chargers hanging in there, and the Kansas City Chiefs, if the playoffs began today, would be out of the picture. And there's kind of an interesting question and dynamic here. You mentioned, hey, if you win this game, you still got a cushion to sit back on. We put out a poll at the beginning of the week on our show that basically asked the question to Broncos country, is this a must-win game for the Broncos? And the results were overwhelmingly from the fan base. Yes. Now, I will say, and this is how I wanted to bounce it off you, is there, I think I could have an explanation for why it was put forth that way by the fan base. Dusty, given the dynamic of the AFC West right now, with the Chiefs, if they lose this game, it doesn't, I mean, I don't know if it mathematically makes it impossible, but it certainly hurts their opportunity to try to win the AFC West. And then it makes it even harder and a deeper hole to dig out of on the backstretch when you're talking about the wild card playoffs, given what they have going on with the Chargers. So this game being a must-win game for Denver, I guess depends on what your definition of must-win is. If it's a must-win in a sense of you need to prove that you can do it against a legitimate team and another AFC contender that's potentially on the rise and who's been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 3 years, sure, maybe. Nothing mathematically eliminates you or changes to that necessary degree. But I certainly think there's a good contingent of NFL fans beyond Broncos country who are probably rooting for the Denver Broncos, similar to how fans were rooting for the Broncos against the Chiefs at the end of last season to keep Joe Burrow out of the playoff picture. I think there's 30 other fan bases in the NFL who are like, hey, we would love for Bo Nix to look like the guy this Sunday, because the further we can dig a hole for Patrick Mahomes, the better for the entirety of the AFC and everyone else involved.
Yeah, I said, what was it, when they lost to Buffalo 2 weeks ago? I said they have 2 losses left on their schedule. That's it. I think they can get in with 11-6. They've done that before in the NFL in the playoffs. They got in at 11-6, won the whole Super Bowl. Didn't have any wide receivers to throw to. Still a crazy year that was. Wow, 73% or more said it's a must-win for Denver. That's insane. Also, can I ask you a question? On that graphic, who's the best team? And don't lie, who's the best team on that graphic?
Let's see. I mean, listen, I think New England's pretty good, but I don't know if
I'll re-ask that. Would you rather have all of those teams currently, records and all, and rosters, would you not take Kansas City over all those teams at 5-4?
That's exactly what I was just going to say. Is I think New England has a legitimate claim to be the best team in the AFC, but if New England and Kansas City played on Sunday, it would be hard because I've just made a personal thing as I've been burned by it too many times. I never bet against Patrick Mahomes. I just don't. So I either stay away from it or I go along with it. And so if New England and Kansas City lined up, I don't think that would be a large spread, and I don't think it would be unreasonable at all for the Chiefs to be favored and win that matchup. They're favored in this game by more than a field goal.
Correct.
On the road.
I think it was 4 the last time I saw it was 4
Yeah,
points.
3.5 right around there, yeah.
So I think the thing that's crazy is that, like, if you took the Chiefs, and this is going to make me sound like a homer, and that's fine. If you took the Chiefs against all of those teams and put them in the playoffs on the road, I would almost guarantee you they're favorites everywhere except LA. Because it's the Chargers in the division game. I bet you'd be favorites in Denver. I bet you'd be favorites in New England. I bet you'd definitely be favorites in Indianapolis. That team is going to collapse. I'm telling you right now, that team is going to fold like a $2 tent when the playoffs happen. I promise you that. But I think it's interesting when you look at that list of teams, because that was the conversation we had Monday. The team that's at the top and the team that's – because Baltimore's winning that division. They're going to win 11 games. Yep. They're going to be back.
Yep.
I've taken 3 different screenshots the last 3 weeks of where the standings and power rankings are, and I'm waiting for week 18. I don't know if the Chiefs will get there. I think they'll be a wild card team. I don't think they're going to win the West, which is why I don't think this is a must-win game for Denver. I think Denver, do you think it would be 73% if Denver was playing the Chargers this week and it was the same situation? Do you think they would be? No.
There's emotion behind this one. Yep.
100%. It's because it's Kansas City. And I don't know. I don't really know the gap between the Indianapolis Colts and the Baltimore Ravens. But I know for a fact that if I had the Ravens or the Chiefs, I would take them over every single team above them because of who they have at quarterback, who they have at head coach, and what they've shown in the past. This is a wild year for the AFC. It's extremely fun. It's extremely addicting. But I don't see this as a must-win game for Denver. If you lose, you're 8-3.
Do you see it as more of a must-win game for Kansas City then, given the dynamics you just laid out?
No, I don't think this is a must-win game for Kansas City either. I think this is a game in which you still play Denver one more time in Kansas City. You still play the Chargers one more time in Kansas City. You still get the Colts in 2 weeks in Kansas City. I don't know what that Dallas game is going to be. They play weird on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And the record's interesting. I don't like that game at all. But again, I don't think this is if they were 5-5, bet your ass it's a must-win game. But they're 5-4. They can lose 2 more games. Now, if you were to poll the city of Kansas City and say, is this a must-win game for the Chiefs? 90% of these people out here are going to say absolutely. But again, why? Because of the emotional backing that the Broncos have. Where Denver had John Elway, who ripped my heart and soul out for my entire life. Now the Chiefs had that with Patrick Mahomes, and the role's been reversed. Just like last year, the Chiefs won every game by 1 score. Now that's you guys. And everyone's like, well, what the hell's wrong with the offense? Because you only put up 10 points against the Raiders, and the Chiefs put up 31. Well, again, you guys have Bo Nix. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. You guys are 8-2. The Chiefs are 5-4. There's no must win for anybody in this matchup, at least in my opinion, because I think it's all about the last 5 weeks of the NFL season.
I'm getting a sense that the comment section on our stream here is just blowing up with some of the things we've been saying. So I want to highlight some of those. But before I do, Dusty, I want to ask you one final question, because you talked about Patrick Mahomes and the way that things have kind of played out over the course of this season. And to use a cross-sport analogy again with somebody here in Denver, when we talk about Nikola Jokic here in Denver, we refer to him sometimes as basketball AI. He is constantly just processing and analyzing things, and he finds the clearest path to the basket, the best possible high percentage shot, the open man, whatever it is. And every time you think you have game planned against him, Doc Rivers saying, well, we were just going to take away his passing and make him a scorer. He drops 55 and 13 and 6. So Patrick Mahomes, in a sense, if I'm going to give a compliment to the Chiefs, it does feel like in this Chiefs dynasty, they have won their respective championships and competed in the playoffs and made it to the mountaintop in so many different ways. It was they take the top off with Tyreek Hill, and you had a younger, more spry Travis Kelce, and then they decided they were going to run the ball more because they brought in Isaiah Pacheco, and they kind of fortified their run game. And then the defense became the strong suit of the team and had to kind of carry the offense in similar fashion to what we've seen a little bit from Denver this past season. So as we are more than halfway now, a little bit more than halfway into the 2025 season, in that AI-like adaptation and growth of the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes at the nucleus, what has been the adjustment this year offensively that has allowed them to kind of start off as poorly as they ever have in the Mahomes era and work their way back into a position now where they're out of the playoff picture, but in many respects an odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, schedule was brutal to start the season. I mean, you played in Brazil. I don't really feel sorry for the Chiefs for that because they want to be America's team. They're not saying no to any sort of invitation. They're playing on Christmas Day again, Thanksgiving Day. They're playing in Brazil. They played in Berlin. They're playing in Spain, wherever. So I don't really feel about that. But you played Philadelphia, Buffalo, Baltimore, Detroit, all those teams. Fortunately, you got Detroit with a beat-up defense. You got Washington without Jaden Daniels. Lost to Philadelphia because that guy you mentioned, Travis Kelce, drops a pass right on the goal line. Philly picks it off. Otherwise, they win that game. The game that haunts them this entire year is that Jacksonville Jaguars game where I still don't know what happened in that game. They dropped interception. Chris Jones started to walk around and watch things happen in front of his eyes.
Right.
That was a tough loss. It's still like a scar. It's kind of like their scarlet letter, I'd say, this year. It's, you walk around, lost to the Jaguars, lost. So, but yet, God, Nikola Jokic is so good. But I think I love watching that guy play. So, but no, I think the thing that the Chiefs have this year is they finally got Rashee Rice back. And that's the guy, man. That's welcome to Deebo Samuel 2.0. That's how they're going to use him. That's what they're going to use him for. He makes everybody better. They have this weird saying out here called EGE. Everybody's going to eat. That's fine and cute, but that doesn't mean anything. It means what everybody's always going to eat, right? Like, your Uncle Leo at Thanksgiving is going to have more than everybody else.
Right.
That's Rashee Rice at the dinner table. Everybody's going to eat, but somebody's going to eat more.
Right. Size of the plate matters.
Yeah, and so that's where Rashee Rice is. So, since he's been back, the offense has looked better. The offensive line was definitely patched up. Like, Josh Simmons was a wonderful surprise to see right out of the chute. They paid money for Jalen Moore. Juwan Taylor's finally stopped jumping off sides. Mahomes has kind of had that trust built back. I think that's kind of been the case. Rashee Rice obviously missed the 6 games to start the season because of the suspension. Since he's been back, you'd like to see Worthy get a little bit more involved. He had an ankle injury yesterday in practice, which is kind of concerning if you ask me. And then they don't have Isaiah Pacheco. But it's never going to be the running game with Andy Reid. It's going to be how they can scheme things in the backfield. And that's what they've done. They've figured out that Rashee Rice is Deebo Samuel in 2025, not the Deebo Samuel that's in Washington. It's the Deebo Samuel that was a rookie and a second-year player in San Francisco. That's been big. And then for some reason, Travis Kelce is ageless. I don't know what's going on. With 87. But those have been the big points as to why they're there. And then, like you mentioned, their defense. I mean, Spags is a G. They lost 28-21 against Buffalo. They allowed 7 points in the entire second half to Buffalo. So good luck against that defense. It can be broken. That's for sure. It can be broken. And the way you break it is with clock management and staying on the field. That's the only way I can say it can be broken. And if Bo Nix can do that, I don't care if he throws for 100 yards. If I was a Denver fan, if you guys have the ball for 35 minutes, you're winning the game.
Yep, sustained drives has been something we've been clamoring for here on a week-to-week basis. And when we see it, when it happens, we're like, oh, so especially against the Cowboys, we're like, that's what a Sean Payton offense is supposed to look like in a vacuum. It's pretty friggin' awesome. But it just hasn't shown up in moments where we thought that it might or thought that it would need to. And this weekend is certainly one of them. So we'll see how that pans out. Well, we got a few minutes left here. Let's get to a handful of comments because I've seen the ticker just exploding down the side of the screen.
They hate me, don't they?
Well, we'll find out. I still believe KC's a good team, but this year's Kansas City team has far less room for error than previous KC games. It will be hard for them to keep up with the AFC. Do you subscribe to that? Yeah. All right, fair. So starting off pretty tame. What else we got, Trey? You all do not like Bo. You are not a Broncos fan. You're all that might be a shot at me too. Okay. That might be a shot at me too. All right, Paul. Let's just chill out just a little bit.
Paul, Bo Nix sucks. He wasn't good at Auburn. He survived at Oregon because he had a great head coach. That's why he's terrible. You guys were the ones that booed him last week in your stadium.
That's true, Paul. I'm still holding out a little hope for the Bo leave. I'm still holding out a little hope for it.
He needs a shot of Bo Zempic or some Bo Kane.
Oh, I love a little PFT reference there.
That's right.
What do we got? What do we got next? When the Eagles dismantled the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I believe that game ended their dominance. I don't know, man. You go to 3 straight, and far be it for me to defend the team that you cover, but you go to 3 straight and you have a chance, at least mathematically in the way it maps out, to do it again, even if it's in a wild card setting. It's tough to make it to a Super Bowl, let alone do it 3 times in a row, win what they've won. I don't know.
No, it's not over. Not even close. I mean, yeah, they're 5-4. It's just been a tough season because of their schedule and because they didn't even have all their players. Now, it's not over. I mean, it was definitely a punch in the face, right? You go back to the Mike Tyson quote of everyone's tough until they get punched in the effing mouth.
Yep, everybody's got a plan until all of a sudden they're missing some teeth and have a bloody lip. The Broncos, I assume Paul is saying, are playing their best football since 2015. I actually would probably agree with that. They had a run on the back half of the season with Russell Wilson, which was fugazi as all get out, and I don't know how they did it. But yeah, they I think have found a way to play some of their better football. Trey, do we have anything else? It's also a must-win for Denver if they're looking to cross a reflection point of having a real presence in the playoffs, something that has not been noted with Denver for a long time. Again, I think that goes back to kind of where I was. If I was imagining getting in the mind of Broncos country, and that's a much scarier place, I would imagine, than being the mind of a Chiefs fan for the last, handful of years. That's true. That's true. Because it was like that for us during the Manning years. It was like we were finding insane things to be critical of when we could have just been like, "Hey, this is pretty cool, right?"
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think there is an element of, especially because Denver last season they were like 1-7 against teams above 500. They had a poor record in one-score games, and a lot of those narratives have flipped, at least in the one-score game category. Their combined record of opponents so far is not great, but the AFC is kind of like that this year. I do think there is still a part of me that's like, I need to see it happen against a team that I think is going to be playing in mid-January and could make it to the Super Bowl before I say, you know what? I believe these Broncos can just go out there and do it. And I have more grace about the fact that it looks like a high school offense for 3 quarters most weeks.
Yeah, I'll finish with this. I'll give it credit to one of my most envious players in the world. That's Benito. Nick Benito said it best. He goes, "Hey, we know what we are this year. We know what our flaws are. But to be the best, you got to beat the best. And the path to the AFC West goes to Kansas City. That's the game you got to win. That's your leader. Listen to that guy, because that guy knows. That's the guy you paid in the offseason. That's the guy that anchors your defense. Benito gets it, man. Like, you beat the Chiefs, though, man. Like, you guys are partying all night in Denver, and there's bubbles and clouds and everything floating around in Denver, because I agree with that comment. The Chiefs are the team. You beat the Chiefs, you're 9-2, and you handle business. Yeah, you can start believing in all that.
The golden opportunity is there for him. Dusty, on the way out, give me a score prediction for this weekend.
28-17 Chiefs.
28-17 Chiefs. All right, man. Appreciate you. Dusty Likens, 96.5, The Fan, out in Kansas City, holding it down. Fesco and Dusty, appreciate your time, my friend.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
You got it. To the rest of you out there, have a wonderful rest of your Friday afternoon. We will catch you on a hopeful Victory Monday coming up at noon for the next rundown.